Hello and welcome to SEO Rankings Do Follow podcast. Here we hold regular talks with SEO and digital marketing experts to discuss how to SEO topics and share actionable insights with the SEO community. So subscribe to stay on top of everything going on in SEO. Today we're going to be talking about maximizing impact with minimal resources in 2025, crafting effective SEO strategies for budget-conscious clients. To guide us through this topic, we've invited Beth Sherman, managing partner at Signify Digital, where she oversees SEO and agency operations. Beth, welcome to the Do Follow podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
If you don't mind, I just want to jump right in, and I'd love to learn more about your journey into digital marketing or through digital marketing and what led you to your current role at Signify Digital.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a slightly strange career path, actually. I studied fashion at university and went and left uni and worked in fashion buying for about 5 years, and then decided that that area was not for me at all and completely sidestepped and worked in marketing in-house and ended up working actually in healthcare marketing, which was a very far stretch from what I'd been doing in my previous roles. But I think it's where I really sort of discovered a bit of a love for marketing and working in sort of niche subject areas and making them interesting and relevant to the audience. So that was what I did there for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved on to set up an agency with a business partner, which became Signify Digital. And we've been running now for about 7 years as an agency, which has been an incredible journey. As anyone that runs an agency knows, it is full of twists and turns. And our first few years was during COVID, which was completely nuts. And I was pregnant through that time, which just threw a whole other spanner in the works. So it's been full of challenges, but I wouldn't do anything else. I love it.
Awesome. And just for our listeners who are unfamiliar or maybe not familiar enough with Signify Digital, could you share a bit about the agency's focus and how you approach SEO for your clients?
Yeah, sure. So we are a digital marketing agency. So we cover things like PPC advertising, social media management and advertising, and also SEO, of which we do content, which we sort of run in-house. So I always say whenever I speak to people, our main focus is lead generation. That's our sort of bag. We work with other agency partners that do things like website design, branding, PR even, but we're always that sort of data-led side looking to drive relevant traffic and generate leads for our clients.
Just want to make a small segue into our discussion of today. So in your experience, what are the key challenges of budget-conscious clients who are working with SEO? And has there been a shift throughout your career that you've noticed that maybe when you started out, there was one challenge, there was a COVID, there was another challenge, maybe the economic crisis brings about another challenge. So just tell me about what are the biggest concerns of people who are keeping their money close?
I think COVID was a bit of a mad time because for us, we definitely went through a period right at the start where we had lots of clients cancel or pause. So that was quite stressful and quite daunting as a new agency. But actually what we found during that period, as the time went on after a few months, people were starting to reevaluate their marketing and what they were doing and realizing the value of online where they might have been placing budget on offline. So we had clients come to us that had been putting quite significant amount of spend in things like shows and events, which then weren't happening because of COVID. So they were reallocating their budget and thinking, right, actually, we need to throw ourselves into how searchable we are as a company. So that really sort of changed the game for them. And it meant that we were then dealing with people that perhaps hadn't done much SEO or paid advertising, but they were sort of there to spend some money, get some traffic, and also be educated, because that's the thing with SEO is for people that maybe don't have much budget and they're just getting started, sometimes they don't really understand what SEO is, how does it work, what do I actually get for my money? So a big part of dealing with clients at that point in their sort of development as a business is educating them about what you're actually doing day to day and what they're expected to get from it and how long that will take. So yeah, managing expectations is quite a big part, I think, particularly when people are in those tighter budget years at the start of business.
Got it. So given that resources are limited, where do you believe agencies should focus their efforts to deliver the highest impact for their clients? I understand that this is like the biggest question, the open-ended question that could be. Let's just start with a more or less soundbite answer, and then we'll move on in more detail later on in other questions.
It's all about niche. I would say. So thinking about what your client does and not getting too carried away with trying to do every single service area or every single product. When people have less resource for SEO and they're being, they're right at the start of that journey, for us, the most success that we've seen is working with people where we can build out specific areas of the website based on niche search terms or services where they are very targeted towards a specific audience or industry, and really focusing in on those keywords and making sure that we are not only doing that on landing pages, propping those up, but we're creating supportive blog content, or there's link building going on as well. So when somebody doesn't have a lot of budget, strategy, it's so important. And it's important across every budget. But, when you are potentially on the chopping block as an agency because you know that you've got to deliver with quite limited resources, it's so important to get that right from the start and make sure that both your team, your agency, and the client is aware of what you're trying to deliver and what those measurables are.
One of the things that I wanted to address is that when I've been speaking to other agency representatives, nobody says that they want to work with a client who doesn't want to spend money. So how does Signify Digital approach clients who have a limited budget? Because I realize that it's a lot of work, it's a lot of headache. You have to educate them and the return is going to be minimal. I don't want our listeners to think of Signify Digital as a company that works exclusively with budget conscious clients. So let's just address that and with reality, given the reality that there's probably a certain threshold that people have to meet in order for them to work with you to be a client for an agency. The question is there a minimum bar that they have to meet in order for them to become a client? Or how do you decide that, okay, I will work with this person or with this company?
Absolutely. And I think that is such an important thing of growing and running a company, is to know when there is a client that you want to work with that has the budget to work with you, and actually when they don't. And, actually taking on that client could be a risk to your business within the next 3 to 6 months. Are they going to take up loads of your team's time and there's going to be problems paying? They don't have the budget. They don't understand what they're buying. Their expectations are unrealistic. So as an agency, we turn work away when it's not right for us. And sometimes it comes down to management spend and available budget. And sometimes it comes down to other things. I think as agency owners, people talk about sort of red flags and things like that, when something's not right. And it's a really great exercise to do as a business owner, as an agency with your team, to talk about, client red flags and who do we want to work with. But it does come down to budget sometimes. And it's sort of understanding what you can deliver for what budget they've got and if it's feasible. And sometimes it's not, and they would be better with a freelancer. So we have freelancers that we know that are fantastic and they're cheaper than us. So if somebody comes to us and they want a certain amount of work, but actually they've really only got a very tight budget and it's not going to be realistic for us to take that project on, we can refer them outside. And that's where, for me personally, the network that you have as an agency is really important to make sure that you can service your clients in a really positive way, whether they do end up being your clients or not. And, I'll have conversations with people sometimes and say, well, what are you paying at the moment, or what's your budget? And this is what we can offer. But actually, I don't think we're going to be the right agency for you. So why don't you go down this route? And the door's always open. We're a sounding board for ideas, and, come to us if you've got a question. But if your budget is very tight, or if, this isn't the right fit, then that's fine. You can go elsewhere, and, we're always here when you need us. And I think having those honest conversations with people is really important. And like I said, it doesn't always come down to budget. Sometimes you'll take on projects because they're just great projects and the team are going to love them. And, we've got one client in particular, a travel client, who is fantastic. And they came to us when they were really in those startup months right at the start. And he was very kind of bootstraps. We did a little bit of PPC, bit of SEO, bit of social advertising. And his advertising spend has sort of quadrupled over the time that he's worked with us. The SEO, we're doing so much more because we could evidence success, and he was really seeing that the other side. So it's working out what those red flags are and what the priorities are, I think, for you and for the client, and going from there.
Let's gain a picture. For example, I'm a client. I don't have a lot of money. Maybe I don't even understand how much is required for SEO. and I want the full package. I want everything that you can offer me. So how do you then tell me that, okay, I have enough money for one activity or one campaign? How does that work? Because I understand that given the previous answer that you've given us, maybe you're going to send this person to a freelancer, right? It's just a scenario. So your client that wants everything, and you like, how do you start? Do you just create ask them to write articles and hope for natural link building? In your experience, has that been a case for you at all? That you have a client who wants everything and you start off with something small and you keep them on, and maybe in a year's time, you give them a bit more once they have a larger budget, something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it depends on what they're looking for and what their focus is. So if budget is an issue at the start, then something that they can do, or what you then want to do is, right, well, what's the ideal strategy and what are we pushing? So what are those sort of niche areas that we're trying to tap into? And how can we make sure that we are providing the direction and the strategy? And maybe some of that legwork can be done on the client side. So if we're coming up with a keyword strategy and specific landing pages and focus areas, then if we're talking about a supporting blog strategy or content strategy, perhaps some of that can be done in-house with some keyword focus and some optimization on site from our team. So I think it's working out how you can work collaboratively to make sure that the work is still being done and strategy is still being followed so that you can see those results over time, but nobody's sort of in any situation where they're expected to do everything. So the client's not having to do everything in-house and you've just got the SEO agency sort of pointing the way, but then equally the agency has some support of the internal team. So those things could be content production. It could be on-site implementation based on the strategy and the observations from the SEO agency. It could be Google Business Profile optimization based on a strategy. So there's various parts of the mix that you can take and you can say, okay, well, this is how we're going to work collaboratively so that the consistent direction is still being followed, but the workload is being shared based on what capacity they have in-house and the time allocated to the agency to carry out the work.
In terms of client education, how often do you involve them and at which stages of the process, especially when they need to understand the value of each small, minor investment?
Yeah, so I think client education is really important. And this is where SEO can get a bad name. I think sometimes people are saying, oh, we've had people before that come to us, oh, I'm spending thousands with an SEO agency. I have no idea what I'm getting for it. And I don't think they're really doing anything. So right at the start of any account, what you need to do is make sure that you're really clear on what you're going to be doing, what the expectations are, and what their idea of success is. So, what is it that the client's trying to achieve? And is there, a handful of kind of golden search terms that the senior team is sitting there Googling, saying, well, why are we not coming up for these? You need to kind of get a really good feel for what they feel like success is. Because as an agency, it's your job to make sure that you are then applying those to the strategy and you're clear on what you're being measured against. In terms of client education, I think those touch points are really important. So whether you're having monthly meetings with them or fortnightly meetings or quarterly sort of strategy reviews, whatever it might be, that you're very clear on what's actually being done and what are we actually talking about in real terms, not just, export, download, send spreadsheets of data and thousands of keywords and all of these things that, honestly, they're never going to open and they're never going to look at. At Signify, one of the things that we do and that we're really passionate about is how we report. So we really make sure that every single report, we're applying lots of context and lots of genuine observations. And when I say genuine observations, what I mean is, from conversations with the client throughout the month, we can apply some of that information to the reports so that we are delivering on those conversations and those queries that they've had alongside the data to prop up what we're actually talking about, trying to get to that endpoint of results. So it sounds corny, but I feel like I say 10 times a day, it's the best work that's done is collaborative, and it's not just about collaboration between the agency team. It's real kind of true collaboration with the client as well, so that they are part of that journey, so that when you're on a call and you can say, oh my God, this keyword is now number one. Isn't it amazing? They are as excited as you are about it. They're not just sitting there being like, I don't really know what you're talking about.
And I also wanted to ask you, since you're working with a client who does not have enough money, do you prioritize the efforts that you put into SEO, those efforts that may be potentially bringing in more money for example, like book a call or a consultation for like a fee? Is that something that you prioritize just to help them out, get that more budget and help you basically pay you more and open up that gateway to more potential kind of campaigns and opportunities down the line?
I mean, like I said, it's really about strategy and knowing from the start what your key focus areas are. So you want to be talking to your client from that first conversation about what is it that they're selling, what's their service areas or their products, and not only what is it that they want to promote, but what as a business brings them the most money. Because we all know it's kind of quality over quantity a lot of the time, particularly in digital marketing. We don't want sort of 1,000 rubbish clicks. We want 10 fantastic high value clicks. So it's all about knowing where the value is to start with. And in terms of the SEO strategy, is additional to the, making sure you've got the right keywords, making sure you've got the right links, all of these different things. It's also about the landing page. So thinking about what is on there, and as an agency, how can we direct the client to make sure that this landing page is doing what it should do in terms of selling the service? Because anyone that runs an agency, that you can drive the best traffic in the world, but no one's going to convert if the on-site experience is terrible. So you've got to make sure that you're not only doing the sort of start of that journey, but you're seeing it all the way through to measuring the other side as well, and the analytics and what results they're getting. And additional to that, I would say, how does the client feel about the results? So quite often we'll say, how's business? What kind of lead was that? Was it good quality? What other questions are the client's clients or the client's customers? What are they being asked by people? So are there some common queries there that we can sort of add into our brains to make sure that we are attacking those from an SEO point of view? So it's that relationship and that focus. And when budget is tight, all of that is super, super important. It's really important to know what are their key drivers of profit from the start so that we as an agency can support that.
I realize that every client is basically the same. It doesn't matter if they're paying you a lot of money or if they're paying you not enough money. Let's call it like that. My question is, so you don't have specific tools, obviously, for clients that don't pay you less or more. What tools or platforms or software do you use to just help you sort of manage everything? It depends on what you do, what specifically you are engaged with. So maybe you could just address a couple of the tools that you use to maybe help you out. Maybe you don't use tools. Maybe everything is your personal expertise. I'd just love to know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, tools like SE ranking are just completely invaluable to the work that we do for clients, because we need to be able to pull the right information and get that strategy right from the start, but then also kind of innovate that over time. So being able to have everything in one place and then be able to track progress is so important. I also think one of the functions that we use a lot is the competitor analysis, because being able to evidence where people are sort of benchmarking against other competitors is really important. So as an agency, we like to have, one really solid SEO platform that we use and we sort of live by, and all of the team know how to use it and everybody's super confident on it, because it makes our life so much easier. And it means that when we're reporting to the client, we are giving them consistent, really solid information. So that is all super, super important for us. It depends. I mean, different service areas are different. If we're doing link building, we'll look at various platforms for that. If we're doing social media, we've actually got a variety of different kind of scheduling platforms that we use for different clients based on their needs and budgets, because some of them like to have their own platform. So it does really depend on what people are sort of looking for and what their budget stretches to. I think some of the biggest accounts that we've worked on will like to have their own subscription to a platform that we then go in and use, rather than that subscription sitting with us. So in those instances, they will have something that they are subscribed to internally that many of their team will log into and monitor. And then we as the agency will use that as well. So it just depends on their needs and their budgets, really. But for us, we don't sort of ring fence platforms for clients based on budget. We don't say, oh no, you don't pay us enough, so you're not going to be on our platform. It's all about showing value and making sure that we can evidence results.
And besides a professional platform like an SEO platform, do you have anything that helps you manage your team or the clients, just like a CRM that you prefer? Or what is the best way to manage like the business internally for you?
So we're actually, as an agency, just signing up to Teamwork at the moment, which is a kind of work management platform where the team will be able to sort of log and track their workload and see the tasks, and we can sort of template different sort of workflows across different service areas. So that's pretty exciting and something that we've been sort of blocking out time for internally to make sure that we're all prepped and ready to go. Speaking with other agencies, I mean, there's loads of different platforms out there, and I think it does depend on your team, on what you're looking for. I myself deal with the sort of client comms and sales funnel. So we have tried out various different platforms in the past for that. But to be completely honest, I like picking up the phone and speaking to people. I think having platforms, sometimes it feels quite rigid to me. So it's so useful to keep track of where you are with people and kind of make sure that you're hitting those marks. But a lot of the time, that human touch is really important.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, no matter how many programs they put out there, it was still the human touch is indispensable for this.
I think as well, like, we've got clients, we've got quite a few clients in the US, and those guys tend to, the clients that we've got there happen to be, quite large, sort of more global companies, and they live and die by platforms. They have everything there because everyone is remote and they're also spread out. So they will have, a platform for everything, whether it's reporting, whether it's team chat, meetings, absolutely everything. So that's great. It's good experience for us as an agency to kind of try things out and be like, right, what do we like using? And then we can kind of build that into our internal workflow.
I wanted to talk a bit about local SEO. Oftentimes there's like a shorter way to success for specifically like brick and mortar businesses or service area businesses. So I just wanted to find out what Signify Digital's approach is to local SEO. Maybe there's something that you've tried and tested. Maybe, just wanted to hear specifically, not about just the general approach, but specifically narrowing down on maybe on Google Maps, like GBP profile, reviews, business directories. Just wanted to learn what your approach is to helping people get a strong foothold in their vicinity.
One of the first things that we would do with people when we're starting with them and that we are looking specifically at local SEO is Google Business Profile update, making sure that that has everything that it needs on there. And then coming up with a bit of a strategy with the internal team again about how that can be continually updated so that it's fresh and it's ticking all those kind of Google boxes of what Google wants to see, to make sure that that doesn't, it's not like in date one day and then 3 months later, no one's looked at it and, the information's out of date, the opening hours are wrong, whatever it might be. So making sure that that's done and that's consistent. Reviews that you mentioned, like, oh my God, it's such an important thing to do. And working with clients to build up their reviews can be really challenging because you need to make sure that they have that process within their internal work about how they are collecting reviews and then how they're answering them. So we've had clients before and the reviews that they have, it feels like a bit of a shambles on the page. And you think, right, we need to kind of take this back and look at the strategy here of how are we collecting reviews and, what's the process in terms of replying to them? What platform are we using? All of this is really important. So reviews is such a big one. And that does go across social as well. So, if we're working on people's social strategy, again, we're thinking about how can we make sure that we're getting reviews for them. The other thing to mention as well is social SEO is such a big area for us, particularly when we're talking about local, thinking about those local searches and how people can be targeting those on their social pages and with their websites and their Google Business Profile all at the same time is really important. So making sure that internally, all of our teams are working together to understand who is the client trying to target locally and how are we supporting that, both on their social pages with their search terms there and then on their website and with their business profile. So there's a lot of different elements, I think, when you're thinking about local, and it's kind of making sure that it's all sort of singing the same tune and it's updated regularly, because what you don't want to do is just do it one day and then, it kind of sits there and it stagnates and, nothing changes, because competition locally is rife. So making sure that you're sort of fighting the good fight regularly is really important with local, for sure.
In my experience, what I've seen is that companies that don't have a lot of money or don't have the budget to like open up big campaigns, they do all their focus is on that human touch, that human element. The customer support is there. You can always jump on a call with a manager and just talk about everything. So I feel like that is a very important part.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, local link building is really important, but also I think working with the internal team on what they can do to almost PR themselves a bit locally. So if they don't have the budget for a PR agency, they don't have the budget for the SEO team to be really sort of running that digital PR campaign for them. It's them understanding what the value is for the internal team to be leaning into those local searches. So local newspapers, local news sites, all of those different places that they can actually generate some interest and get some high quality links. Listings are good, but the quality isn't always there. So it is really about making sure that if you can get in the local news and get on the website and getting a link back or anything like that as a local business is going to be really important, because we know that Google just really leans into that in terms of where you're going to be ranking.
In terms of specific metrics and KPIs, what are the most valuable ones to track? Well, obviously, given the budget conscious clients that we're talking about, and in order to demonstrate the tangible results without overwhelming them with data. But given what you said about educating the client, should that even be a stage where you can overwhelm them with data? If you're doing it right, everything should be smooth sailing, right?
Absolutely. And that's the one thing, is you don't want to overwhelm them with data, because they will just check out of that conversation and won't listen to you. And then 6 months later, they'll be like, I don't know what I'm getting from my SEO agency, because they've just not really bought into it. So it's really important to show things like keyword rankings, particularly when you're having that initial conversation about what is our focus, what are those kind of golden keywords that we want to be targeting that are really important to your strategy, your team, your profitable, the profitable areas of your business, and making sure that every single time you check in with them, you revisit the same information and you show them that progress. I think kind of dipping in and out of different things isn't that helpful. And the reality is, it doesn't go up every month. Numbers are not going to just go up 20% every month and everybody's a millionaire by the end of it. The market changes, the economy changes, things do go up and down. But as the agency, it's our job to make sure that we can be seen to be a partner to the client through that time. So if the numbers go down, it's not ideal, but how are we going to get through that? How are we addressing these things to make sure that that long-term strategy is there? And they need to be able to see that in the data that you're presenting. So that sort of storytelling through numbers is really important. And in terms of specific metrics, keyword rankings, essential. On-site engagement, also essential in terms of showing, what's working and what's not working and how are people engaging with their content. And then things like domain authority and progress there, it's useful and it just gives them a benchmark. I think when you start working with a client, you can get a feel for what their understanding of data and their appreciation for the data is, and actually what they want to know. Because some people just won't care. They just want to know, they just think, I just want to know organic traffic and all of this other stuff is useful. Or they might really love the keyword rankings. And so it's getting a feel from them in terms of what numbers they like to see and making sure that you can evidence your progress through that every single month.
Looking ahead into 2025, what trends or emerging strategies or tools do you believe agencies should keep in mind to help smaller clients remain competitive? So I'm thinking about like OpenAI or any predictive analytics tools maybe?
One of the things for agencies is how can we do more work smarter and quicker? And I think every single agency owner, every single person working in an agency will feel that pressure, because the biggest challenge for us is juggling lots of different things. So emerging technologies like AI that you mentioned is going to be even more important as we move forward. And I think it will also be almost more acceptable to clients. In the past, when AI started to emerge, I think it almost felt like a bit of a dirty word, like people were cutting corners. But now agencies that can apply AI and integrating it really successfully into their work delivery are going to be miles ahead of everyone else. And that's the difference, is making sure that you can not only use it to speed up your internal processes, but you can use it in a way that makes your work better than other people. So AI is absolutely one. I think the speed of video production is completely insane now, and it sits across every single area of marketing. It sits on people's websites, on people's social pages, TikTok, LinkedIn, have now got a new little banner bit with some videos coming across it. So they are really leaning into it. So for agencies to be able to generate content like video really efficiently that is going to speak to those algorithms, and it's not just going to be good and entertaining, but it's going to be searchable, that is going to be golden as we move into the next year. Searchable video, we already know, is already a conversation, and TikTok is, such a huge search engine in itself. But we're seeing other platforms start to sort of level up in that, and LinkedIn is a big one. So depending on what your client does and what their service is, making sure that as an agency, you can tap into all of these areas and leverage the technology for better work is the key.
Thank you, Beth. My last question is basically, what would you say to yourself maybe 7 years ago when you were starting out, and maybe you were not thinking about small clients, you don't think of them as something that you want to target? Because everybody in their heads wants to be the best, right? You want to have work with the best, everything like that. So what advice would you give to agencies or freelancers, SEOs who are thinking about maybe launching an agency? How should they approach small clients?
I think it's about deciding who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. And that sounds quite brutal, but I think as you grow an agency, your time is so precious and your relationships are so precious. And what you don't want to do is end up spending loads of time, effort, professional, emotional energy into relationships that perhaps it wasn't going to work from the start. So I think building up some knowledge and some kind of looking internally with yourself and your business partner or whoever's in your team about what kind of clients do we want to work with and who do we want to attract, almost regardless of budget. The best clients, they might not have money to start with, but they will work with you for 10 years and they will be your best clients for 10 years. And that budget, it will change and, they'll have more money as you grow with them. So I think learning to grow your agency with fantastic clients from the start is the key, really. And to be able to do that, it's about learning about red flags, the kind of services that you want to be pushing into, the kind of sectors that you want to be pushing into, and when to say yes and when to say no is really important.
Appreciate it, Beth. So we're going to do the sign off right now. And I'm going to say that today, Beth Sherman shared valuable insights on maximizing SEO impact with minimal resources. I hope our listeners got inspired and are already thinking about new ways to how to craft effective budget-friendly SEO strategies. Thank you, Beth, for your time and your expertise. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to Do Follow podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.